G'day, welcome to Down on the Woodworks. This is the second and last video in the coffee table makeover. So just to recap, in part one of this project I finished the transformation of the base of this dark and dated coffee table to what you can see here, including building and adding the lower shelf. In this video we'll finish the table off by doing basically the same to the top, except that the four lighter coloured panels are going to be removed and replaced with glass. I needed to get these boards out in one piece and without damaging them too much, because I wanted to reuse some of them, but that proved to be a challenge because there were so many nails holding them in. In the end, I just opted for bashing them out, which worked out fine. The first step was to attach a straight edge onto the table so I could dress the table edges with a straight bit in the router. I set the straight edge 1.5 millimeters back from the table edge. And then using the belt sander, I reshaped and dressed the round corners. I also used the belt sander to strip back the top and flatten out all those rustic saw marks. At the time I thought that was the best way to do it, because it was basically just made up of narrow lengths of timber. Apart from the dust, that is. I then finished it off with some 180 grit paper. Now, to insert that glass into the table, there's two ways I can do it. I'll bring you in close and I'll show you the one that I've chosen and why. The easiest way to fit the glass panels would be to run a rebate around these areas down to the thickness of the glass, probably using the router, and just sit the glass in and you'd be done. But that would mean that you would see all of these inside faces. Now if you have a look on this table, because these boards were nailed in here, and there's quite a few boards, these areas are riddled with nail holes. And if you have a look over here, this one's pretty chopped up where where it was a bit tough getting the timber out. So what I want to do is basically cover them up. So far with this table I've managed to reuse all original timber from the table itself, and I want to continue doing that. So I'm going to use the infill panels that came out of here to mount onto these inside faces. As you can see, the timber is beautiful. It's nice and flat, not free. The grain is very straight in all the pieces, so I think that will look really nice. And all I need to do is cut the width of these strips down so it matches the width of this inside face, minus the thickness of the glass. And with these fixed all inside there, that will give me the lip as well for the glass to sit on. What I would have preferred to have done was miter all of these joints on these inside faces with these timbers, but unfortunately I can't do that because as you can see here, these are the longest ones that I've got, and they were all a bit loose fitting. I think that was just part of the rustic charm of this table. If I tried to use that with mitered joints, you would see horrible gaps, so I'd rather not do that. So what I'm going to do is basically, these shorter sides here will have to be cut down so I can cut those down to fit in between there snugly, and then I'll just butt this one up against that, and I think that will look pretty good. It'll match the construction of this tabletop anyway. But before fitting those timber strips onto the table, I wanted to mount it to the base just to check how flat it was. I started thinking that if the table is going to have glass panels in it, then the top itself is going to need to be very flat. But after checking it with my straight edge, I could see that it wasn't. To keep in with the new look of this table, I thought it was important that the top looked as flat as the glass when they were inserted. The only solution left for me was to flatten it with the router using a surfacing bit and sled. Without going into too much detail, I quickly made up a surfacing sled out of 3 lengths of MDF and a couple of end pieces all screwed and glued together. And a slot cut in the bottom for the surfacing bit. I attached 2 lengths of aluminium extrusion to the sides of the table, level to each other, and then proceeded to make several passes over the table until it was perfectly flat. With that done, I could dress the old insert boards, thickness them to the same dimension, and then rip them to width and length. They were then fixed in place with glue only to avoid any nail holes that would have to be filled and seen. Because I had to do this outside, there was a bit of background noise, so I'll just play a bit of music instead. Once everything had dried, it was time for finish, which was a coat of stain in a colour called cashew, and I must say I really like this colour on this timber. A few coats of sprayed on poly and it was done. Now I have to say, with the glass panels in place, the transformation of this coffee table is just amazing. Well, hopefully you agree with me about the transformation of the table. That table was part of a sort of collection of furniture, all the same style. There's 3 pieces. The other pieces are a side table, which I've already finished. Basically gave it the exact same treatment, except it didn't get a glass top. So I didn't video that, it would have been exactly the same as what you've just seen. And there's also a low TV unit, which I haven't started on yet. Well, thanks for watching along, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a huge thumbs up and share it around with your friends. And also, if you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. That also helps as well. If you want to know what I'm up to in between videos, you can follow me on Instagram. But until the next one, you guys all have a great day.